right club. Be the right club today. Yes!
Again, has to be careful of the speed.
What a comeback season for Hal Sutton.
Come right back toward the hole.
How about in? That's the second eagle he's made it for this week.
17 years later, Hal Sutton is the Players' Champion.
He's got it going right at the flagstick. It'll be up. It is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Be the Right Club Today podcast. This week, we have a very special guest, Mr. Corey Pavin. Corey was the 1995 U.S. Open winner, won 14 times on the PGA Tour, and he was the 2010 Ryder Cup captain. It's Ryder Cup week, Corey. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, good to be with you guys.
All right, Corey. As Chase said, it's Ryder Cup week. How does that make you feel? What's going on in your head right now with it?
Well, you just said Ryder Cup, and I got goosebumps. So that says a lot right there. So it's the Ryder Cup's always been so special to me, anyway. And I was lucky to play 3 of them and be a captain like you, and I was an assistant captain too. So it's actually the first Ryder Cup I'm not going to be at since 2010. Playing out here at Pebble Beach this week for the first tee event on the Champions Tour, but I will be watching, and I will be seeing all the highlights at night. If I'll be playing some, so I won't be able to watch it live all the time, but I'll be very, very interested, and it'll be interesting to see the pairings and, who plays when. And, that's always the really cool stuff for me, to see what the strategy is that the captains employ.
Well, it's the biggest event in golf, probably, don't you think? I
think it is. They always say it's the Super Bowl of golf, and it's got to be the most watched. And, the interesting thing about the Ryder Cup is, it's Europe and the US, but the whole world watches. It's not just Europe and just the US. It transcends the locations of the teams. And that says a lot about the event. The ratings go through the roof, and, hopefully it'll be close, and, hopefully the US will win. That's what I'm cheering for sure.
Well, that's what I'm cheering for too. One of the things that I think the guest might like to hear is something that I was actually in shock. The press room at the Ryder Cup, bigger than the Super Bowl. I mean, what was your impression when you walked into the press tent the first time at the Ryder Cup?
Well, I thought it was great because, I actually had a whole bunch of people that would actually listen to what I had to say for a change. But it is huge. I remember going in there the first time, and it looks like, it's not quite a football field, but it looks like a basketball court, filled with desks. And I don't know how many people were there, but I wouldn't say it's intimidating because, we've done that, plenty and talked to people, but it makes you realize, how big a deal it is, and how many people cover it and how many countries cover it. And, the whole world's watching. So you want to make sure you do things right as a captain.
Yeah. And I think as a player, you realize the significance of it from all of this too. I don't know about you, but I probably felt more nervous in the Ryder Cup than I ever felt in any event that I played for myself. What were your feelings on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Hal. I tell stories about Ryder Cup, and, we've both won major championships, and I felt like, when I won my major championship, it was a relative walk in the park compared to playing in the Ryder Cup. I've never been as nervous as I am in the Ryder Cup, which is exciting. I loved it. I thrived on those types of feelings. It kind of helped me, concentrate, and it helped me play some of my best golf ever. So that, it was a great experience, from a point of view of trying to grow as a golfer. I thought that helped me more than anything in my career was playing Ryder Cups.
Well, that segue, we can segue now into Corey Pavin instead of the Ryder Cup, which is something that I want to do. I want to get into your world of golf here for a minute. And I want to start by telling you that I think you are the greatest player ever to play the game the size that you are. And I mean, people know, I mean, you're a small man and you played a large career. And I have the utmost respect for you, Corey. I mean, you were a fighter. So let's talk about Corey Pavin.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, Hal.
So I'm glad that you felt that way. Now tell us about you. Tell us how you developed that.
I played guys in amateur golf called Hal Sutton, and that helped me play better. I remember you kicking my butt in the Western Amateur one year, and probably a bunch of other places too. I remember playing against you and thinking, man, this guy's strong and he hits it great, and how can I ever beat a guy like that? And that helps motivate me to play better, and to try to figure out how I can beat someone like you or beat anybody out there. Because as you said, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, so I have to find a way to get the ball in the hole as fast as I can. It's fun, for me, kind of always being, the small guy, the underdog. It makes it, I don't know, I guess a little more fun to beat guys, maybe some other people, I suppose. But, I could never overpower a golf course. I had to kind of think my way around the course, kind of position myself point to point, leave myself in, the easiest place to get it up and down if I missed a green, because I'm not going to hit every green. You hit a lot of greens. I hit way less greens. So I had to find ways to score, and through chipping and putting, I worked real hard, always on my chipping and putting, worked real hard on not making mental mistakes. That was a big thing for me. If I could stay away from mental errors, keep the bogey count way, way down. I was never a guy that make, 8, 9 birdies around. I do it once in a while, but I couldn't count on that. So my 5 unders and 6 unders were 5 or 6 birdies, maybe 7 birdies at the most. So I had to kind of work around what I had. And I always try to tell people to play within their own ability. And I tried to do that. So it was very important to me to play within my own ability, because if I tried to do things that I wasn't capable of, I was going to make some really bad mistakes. And as I'm saying, I can't afford to make mistakes, because I can't overcome those with power.
Corey, when you say mental mistakes, what are some of the mental mistakes that you felt like you've avoided pretty well over the course of your career?
Yeah, I think it's like strategy more than anything. If I try to hit a tee shot further than I should, that's a mental mistake. It was important for me to hit the fairways. So if I tried to do something that was, risky, I guess, or a low percentage shot, I better have a very good reason to do that. Maybe one behind playing the last hole, to go for something that I normally don't. But if I hit a iron shot into a green, pins on the left, and if you short side yourself, it's really bad. And if I miss that shot left and most likely make a bogey, to me that's a mental mistake. It's a physical shot I didn't hit well, but it's a mental error to hit a shot in a place that is bad, or just maybe I lost my concentration. I lost focus for a shot or a putt or a chip. Those things are mental mistakes to me.
So one of the things you were talking about right there that I think I want to bring up here is we talk all the time to kids about inventory in your game, understanding, knowing your game. Explain that. You just said that. You know your game. You know how to make a decision based on your game. Elaborate on that just a little bit.
Yeah, you say inventory of your game. I say playing within myself or playing within my abilities. Say exactly the same thing. So, if if I've got a 170-yard shot and say the pin's in the front and it's over water, and the water's right up to the green, so it's maybe 165 to carry the water, 5-6 more to the hole. I can hit a 6-iron. I can do that. But if I miss hit a little bit, I'll probably hit in the water. So for me, it's like, go ahead and hit a 5-iron, hit it smooth. If I hit it 25 feet past the hole, big deal. If I miss hit a 6-iron, I hit in the water, that is a gigantic deal. I'm probably going to make a double bogey. So I try to just, as you say, take inventory of my game and understand my strengths, understand my weaknesses, play to my strengths and play away from my weaknesses. You hear it all the time on TV. He's going to lay it up on this par 5 and he's going to try to get a certain yardage. I know what that yardage is for me, with that I'd have my best chance to get it close. But it works the same way off the tee. If you're playing, a par 4, sometimes I would even play a long par 4 and try to hit a little shorter off the tee to have a 5-wood in or a utility club as opposed to a long iron, because the long irons are really hard for me to hit. They were easier for you to hit, but for me, it's a very difficult club. So I try to stay away from putting myself in that situation, things like that. I mean, you can go on and on all day about it, but I know you get the gist. Hopefully everybody out there will understand it.
Well, yeah, I mean, just understanding your game. That's, what you can do. I mean, we talk about strengths and weaknesses all the time here. You play into your strengths and away from your weaknesses. And, when you put yourself in a spot that you feel like is a weakness, you don't get scared of it. You just embrace it and do the best you can with it, and then put it behind you and go play the next shot.
Right. And you learn from that. So, you learn not to put yourself in that position, or you learn how to put yourself in a good position. But yeah, you always have to, do the best you can, dealing with the anxiety of, there's two types of anxiety. There's the anxiety of excited that you've got a shot that you want to hit, and the anxiety of a shot you're kind of afraid of or you don't like. They both are the same problem, is that you have to deal with your emotions and get control of yourself. So, most people talk about, discomfort. Sometimes when you're really comfortable, you get overexcited and over eager to hit a shot. So it works that way as well.
So Corey, one of the things that, I'd love to hear, how many rounds of golf do you think you and I played together over the years?
It's probably for you too many. With me,
no, not at all. Not at all. I learned
we've
from
played
you
a lot.
all the time, Corey.
We've played a lot. I remember us. I'm still mad at you, actually. I think it was the '85 LA Open. You may not. You remember this?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Lanny was killing us all, both of us. Yeah. He won by a lot, but we were battling for second. And we got on 18 and we were tied, and you hit a beautiful drive, and I think I knocked on the green in 2, which was good for me. And you hit maybe a 6-iron or 5-iron up there about 15 feet, maybe, I don't know, something like that, and made it to finish second alone. And I was like, gosh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could have done that, But those are the things that make us who we are. We love that competition. It's not about necessarily winning. Sometimes it's about finishing as high as you can. And I remember you doing that in 1985 vividly.
Well, let me tell you how vividly I remember that. I was short of the hole, kind of on the left side of the green, so the putt was breaking pretty good to the right, as I recall. Not the normal putt that you think you're going to make, and somehow I made it. And one of the things that I'd like to share about Corey Pavin is you had, to me, still do, one of the best imaginations of a player on the tour. And I'd love to know, do you think you have a good imagination? Because I always felt like you did.
Well, I must have a good imagination for me to have the career I had, because something had to be, I had to create something out of my game. But, I think basically, I think you're talking about shot making and seeing different things. I grew up on a golf course it was very short, and it had a lot of dog legs at about 220, 230. So I learned to curve the ball around the corners. I couldn't hit it over the corners, so I worked it around the corners. I was never a high ball hitter. So I had to find a way to get from point A to point B. And, most of the guys, now in this day and age, just see a big, high, straight shot. For me, it was just always, I don't know why I learned it, but I just saw 20 different shots or 20 different potential shots. And I had to figure out which one I felt best about, or what I thought I could get the best results. So that's kind of the way I always went about it when I was deciding what type of shot to hit into the green or what type of shot to hit off the tee. It was what shot was going to give me the best chance to score. But I had a lot to pick from. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the creativity of hitting it high, hitting it low, cutting it, drawing it, whatever, making the ball run, trying to hit it and spin it, which is hard for me. But I enjoyed that challenge. It was kind of fun. I enjoy that aspect of the game. The shot making is fun.
Well, you were a wizard around the greens, and you didn't even mention that. I mean, you had multitudes of shots. You complimented me on my ability to hit the ball, but the truth is I didn't have any of the shots you had around the greens. And I always stood back and watched you. I loved watching you do it because you'd figure out something that I hadn't even thought about. Ballesteros was very similar in that way.
Yeah, he did a lot of that too. I think, my basic philosophy on chipping is to get the ball on the green as fast as I can rolling for as long as possible. So to do that, you have to hit a lot of different shots, use a lot of different clubs. I've hit little hook sand wedges from just off the green and make the ball run. I've flopped them up in the air and try to land them soft. Or softly is the proper grammar. So I don't know. I guess my shot making and my chipping are similar in that regard. Is that I have an idea what I want to do, especially chipping. To create the shot takes a lot of practice, a lot of work, as we both know. But it's also fun for me to do that too. The imagination and. I always get a kick out of, like you just said it, I get a kick out of that when you say, wow, you hit some shots and I was just scratching my head kind of stuff. And, I enjoy compliments like that from people I respect, like you. So I appreciate you saying that. And, to me, that's the fun of the game. Putting's like that too. You get these putts, these long putts that break and do all this stuff and try to lag them up there close. And, sometimes you have choices for different lines, especially when you get on, like US Open greens or, Augusta greens. You can get to the hole with different routes, and you get choices. You can go big and high with a lot of break, or can take it a little straighter line sometimes too. And that takes imagination as well.
So, Corey, course management question for you. It's kind of a two-part question. What courses do you think set up the best for you? And did you feel like there were times where, like, shorter par fours you would want to take on driver to give yourself a wedge just because that was a strength of your game? Yeah,
so golf courses, I'm sure Hal could answer this one too for me, but Riviera was always one of my favorites, as it is Hal's, obviously. And Colonial was probably my all-time favorite golf course to play. On tour. I've had a very good record there, but that's a golf course with a lot of dog legs, small greens, which require a lot of thinking. It requires a lot of placement of your second shot. Sometimes missing the green, on the not the short side, but the long side, so to speak, is actually a better shot sometimes than being too aggressive. I always like golf courses with small greens. Because you have to hit a clean iron shot into the green. And if you miss the green, you better miss it in the right place. Obviously I like Shinnecock because I won there, but that's a course like that. Pebble Beach is a golf course like that. As far as like par fours, I tried to hit, well, I don't know what you mean by a short par four, but some of them were drivable. never, it has to be a pretty short four par for me to drive it. But that's still a decision to make. Probably I think the best short par 4 in the world could very easily be 10 at Riviera. And it requires, if you do hit driver, or some of the guys are hitting 3-wood now, you've got to place it in the correct place if you miss, when you miss the green, because to hit that green is almost impossible. But most of the time on 10, I hit a 3-wood or a 5-wood and try to play it way off to the left to get an angle into that green. So it's a lot of strategy on holes like that. I think they're some of the best holes in golf when you get a good short 4 par. Hartford has a great one on, I think it's 15 at Hartford. 15. Yeah, that's a wonderful hole. There's a lot of things that can happen there. But there's choices. But if I get on a hole that's 390, I may hit, or 380, I may hit a 3-wood to get a full wedge in, or hit a little driver, a soft driver. So I have a yardage that I want. That's all part of strategy. And as you're saying, play into my strengths. I don't want to have, a 50-yard shot or a 40-yard shot. Those are very difficult. So I try to stay away from that type of distance. And for me, that's hard. Maybe other people it's okay, but for me, that's not a good distance.
It was never a good distance for me. I've always said that the second shot on a par 5 that you're not going to is the most mindless shot in golf. You can go to sleep on that shot almost, yep. Because anywhere in the fairway, whatever distance you're going to hit it is okay most of the time. So let's talk about this. I know the people listening out there need to know this. To me, what sets a tour player apart from everybody else is they know how far they actually hit the ball. So seldomly do we actually see people that know how far they hit it. They know how far they want to hit it, but they don't know how far they hit it. Am I right or wrong, Corey?
Oh, that's so spot on. It's funny when you're saying that, because I tell people, I obviously play the amateurs all the time, and maybe they have a 160-yard shot, and I go, well, what do you hit 160 yards? And they, maybe it's a 6-iron. And I say, well, is that like you do it all the time? They go, well, once I did it, so I think I can do it all the time now. Right. So it's funny that there's no margins. A lot of the amateurs don't have margins. And by that, I mean, if you have a 160-yard shot and you can hit a 6-iron 160 yards, but that's max, you have zero margin. Right. So if you hit a 5-iron and if you, maybe you flush it and you hit it 7-8 yards past the hole. And if you miss it a little bit, you hit it 3 or 4 yards short of the hole. So you've given yourself some room to hit a shot. Right. If you pull out that 6-iron, if you don't hit it good, you could be 10, 12 yards short, and you don't want that. So I think that's a big mistake people make. Obviously people think they hit it further than they do. And I've never heard anybody, ask them, how far do you drive it? And they say 220, and they actually hit it 240. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So everybody thinks they hit a little further than they do. But you have to know your game. You have to understand how far you hit it. And it's not hard to do, but it does take a little thinking and a little work to figure it out.
So we're going to talk about the past and talk about the future. I mean, the present. In the old days, in Pro-Ams, we saw a lot of what we call sandbaggers, people that were disguising how good they really were. In today's world, in present time right now, we see the opposite of that. People telling you they're much better than they really are. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, I see that. It depends on the person too. So I still see some sandbaggers, but for the most part, you're right. It's changed because people want to have a lower handicap and they want to say they're better, which is a good thing. They want to be better. Whether the handicap is true or not, I don't know. But it's nice that people want to work at it and get better. I play against guys and they're maybe a 4 or 5 handicap, and they want to get more shots from me, right? Why does everybody always want more shots, Hal? I don't understand that.
I don't understand that either. I feel like we've been behind the 8 ball on that all of our life. People need more from us.
Yeah, but I love it when we go out on the course and they say I'm a 5 handicap. You need to give me 8 shots, and I'm like, why? You're a 5. I'm a scratch, right? So if they want to, I say, if you want to make a bet, I'll make you 2 bets. I'll give you 8 shots, and we'll play match play, and then we'll also play a stroke play bet, and we'll add them up at the end. And it's really hard for people, because this is a trade secret. Hopefully it's not a bad thing, but it's hard for people to shoot their handicap when you're adding them all up, because they might make a double, triple, quad or something. Right. So it's always a hedging my bet when I can get a stroke play bet against them too. But it's nice to see people want to work on their game and they want to get better. It's a great thing for golf, and COVID's obviously a bad thing that's happened. But actually for golf, it's actually been a bit of a resurgence. People are playing a lot more golf now. So that's been a good thing about it.
Corey, you made a comment about the Ryder Cup, saying that you felt like you thrived on when you were nervous with nerves and stuff. How did you deal with shaky hands? How did you deal with nerves?
Experience. It's just experience. Most of the time I dealt with it. I tried to slow down a little bit. When I'm sure Hal, you probably feel the same way, but when you're nervous, you tend to do things a little quicker. Your heartbeat's a little faster, and you walk a little faster, your tempo's a little faster. And I always just tried to kind of breathe and feel like I was walking a little slower, which was actually probably my normal gait. So I just tried to slow things down, and not to be confused with playing slowly, because that's not a good thing. But you need to understand your pace of how you're playing. It's easy to, when you're anxious, nervous, to do things fast, to look up. You hit a putt, you look up before you hit the putt. Chipping, hitting shots, everything the same. You want to see it so quickly. So another thing for me is to just stay down a little bit longer after I hit a shot, or after I chip, or after I putt. Keep my head down. Don't look up. Your muscles are a little tighter. I learned, I worked with Dr. Coop, who Hal knows. We used to do a thing where I would flex my muscles, like my shoulders and everything, and just tighten them and then relax. And that helped me relax my body. But ultimately, super concentration, just getting totally focused on what I'm doing would kind of make those jitters go away to some extent. But you have them, and it's good that you have them. I think you have to recognize that you're nervous. You have to recognize that you're shaking, or whatever you want to call it, and deal with it. You can't ignore it. Ignoring it's going to kill you. So, you just have to find a way through experience of how to deal with pressure and anxiety on the golf course.
How did your pre-shot routine help you get through those situations?
Yeah, the pre-shot routine is so important to do the same thing over and over again. It can change from week to week or day to day even, but it should always be the same during a round, because you have to have something that's a constant. If you change it, it takes you out of rhythm to some extent. I've used the same pre-shot routine for a whole year even, but it will change, and it has to change, because it will get stale after a while. So you have to, kind of keep tweaking it, but you want to stick with whatever you're doing. Usually even for a whole tournament, you don't want to change it day to day. But if you can get a whole week out of something, it helps. It leads to consistent golf.
Is Eric still caddying for you?
He sure is.
How about that?
Yeah, he's still in my bag.
So
we've been together a long time, 1991.
Yeah. So tell everybody how important a caddy is, having the right guy on the bag is.
Yeah. I was thinking about when you're saying something earlier about, club selections and shot making. And, I was thinking about Eric because, obviously we've been together a long, long time. And if most of the time I know what I want to do, but there's times that I have a question and I'll just turn to Eric and I go, what do you think? Should I draw an 8 or cut a 7, and a lot of times he'll say, well, which one are you more comfortable with? He'll give a good answer for, that's probably the best answer he could give because he knows either shot's good for me.
Right.
And he'll remind me that it's more about comfort than about shape, per se. So, but he's so important, he's a great green reader. And, the big thing for me, he's a great friend of mine. We've been together 30 years now. He's a great friend, very loyal. Obviously a great caddy. He's always on time. He's always prepared. He's ready. He's maybe into it more than me sometimes. I watch him. As you know, Hal, he's a emotions on the sleeve kind of guy. And sometimes when he reacts, if I miss a putt and he, kind of turns away or something, and it's like, Eric, you need to calm down, and he goes, I'm all right. I'm fine, but I had to get used to that with him because he expresses himself a lot more than I do. I'm stoic most of the time, but I had to get used to that. And we have to get used to each other. That's the way it is.
Well, the reason why I brought that up is I knew that you and Eric have had a long time relationship. Y'all are great friends. The point of the whole thing is he knows you and you know him now. So he's a true team member. He can make an educated, if you ask him for advice, he knows you well enough to give you advice.
Right. And to give me his opinion, not the opinion he thinks I want to hear.
Right.
And that's important for a caddy to be able to say what he thinks and not be worried about, being wrong or, what if he's mad at me or anything, and it's a trust and you have to have that. You don't want a yes man out there. You want a guy that is going to help you play better golf.
Exactly. Well, let's get back to the Ryder Cup here. We'll close this out like that. What do you think the difference between the Europeans and the Americans have been for all these years?
Well, that's a good question. It's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think I hear a lot of things that the team's not together. The U.S. teams, they can't play together, which I think is a bunch of nonsense. Personally, I think we do fine that way. I think that a lot of it is. My theory is it's cultural. Like Europe is a much more open culture, right? So I think emotionally people express themselves better that live in Europe than they do in the United States. So my theory is that the communication ability of the Europeans is better, that they're willing to put their neck out there and tell their peers, I'm really nervous, or I'm whatever. They're willing to talk to each other more. It's a little more open dialogue, I think. And I know that when I played Ryder Cup, I remember playing with Lauren Roberts at 95 up in Rochester. And we were on the 17th hole, and Lauren came up to me and he kind of looked at me out of the side of his eyes, and he's like, I'm like so nervous I can hardly even take it back. And which was a great thing, because as a team member, you need to be able to express that and get it out there so you can kind of bond, really.
Right.
And I turned to him and I said, yeah, I'm so nervous too. I can barely swing, and he goes, really? And I was like, yeah, I'm nervous. And it made him feel better and it relaxed him quite a bit. And so I think it's hard for the Americans to talk to each other that way in general. I think we did better in our time. And it was a different time. We were all about winning. If we didn't win, or do the best we could or finish as high as we could, we were mad. It wasn't about counting up the dollars. And there's players out there now that are about winning. Don't get me wrong, but there's so much money out there. And I think guys they're not going for it as much as they used to, I'd say. I don't know if you agree with that.
Totally. I totally agree.
So I think that has something to do with it. It's kind of an attitude of winning, of just going out there and being willing to go for it on 18 and finish sixth if you mess up, as opposed to playing smart and finishing third. Right. Guys, there's a lot of guys that are not willing to take that chance. There are some that are, guarantee that. But I think that's part of the issue as well, is there's so much money.
Corey, Hal's talked a lot about, his time as Ryder Cup captain. Take us on just a quick little behind the scenes tour of when you were captain. What were some of your takeaways from 2010?
Well, I will say it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I know Hal said the same thing, but it's such an honor to be the captain. It's a great responsibility. And, I took it as serious as I've ever taken anything in my life. 2 years of our lives, given to the Ryder Cup. I think, for me, all the media and all the stuff leading up to it I could do without. But the actual team part of talking to the players, creating an environment for them that they could perform at the best, the best that they can. Talking to them about pairings, trying to get the guys comfortable with whatever they're doing that week. My job wasn't playing. My job was to give us the best chance to win. So I was trying to do everything I could, whether it was stuff in the team room or on the golf course, or the way I talked to the players. I thought a really important thing for me was to get to know the players, what buttons I need to push for them individually, because everybody's different. Everybody has different things to say to them. I remember Jeff Overton was playing his singles match, and he was upset about something that was going on. I'm not going to get into details, but he was really upset. And I talked to him and I said, good, stay upset, but stay focused and beat the crap out of this guy, right? And I'm sure he was probably expecting me to say, calm down, take it easy, because he kind of looked at me weird, like, did you really just say stay mad, And he went on and won like 4 of the next 5 holes or something like that and won his match. But that was what I needed to say to him. If it was somebody else, it might have been different. Ricky had a very important match coming in, and I met him on the 15th tee, and I think he was 3 down, and he had to have that match for us to have a chance. And I met him there. He walked up, and my big pep talk to him was this: "How you doing, Ricky?" "I'm good." "You know what's going on?" "Yep." "Okay. Bye." Because he didn't need anything. He knew what was going on, and I know him, and I knew, what was I going to say? Birdie the last 4 holes. He knows he needed to do that, which he did, but I don't need to say it. I mean, he knows. But you have to know the players, and that was a big part of my job. Was to sit down with the players individually, get to know them better if I didn't know them, because there was a few new guys on the team that I didn't know that well. So I got to know them well, and it was a great time. I wish we would have won. We lost by a point, but we made Europe very nervous the last day because we were down, 3 or 4 going to the singles, and we got within a point, and came down to the last match. So it was exciting. It was fun. I wish we would have won, but I wouldn't trade it in for anything in the world.
So here's a good way to close out. You played on 3 Ryder Cup teams, played with various different guys. Did you leave better friends with everybody that you played with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as you know, I know why you're asking, but there's a bond you have with teams. We're in a very unique sport where it's just us. It's me, it's my caddy, it's our wives, whatever it is. we have our little tight knit group, and it's an individual sport. And when you get a chance to play as a team and spend that time together, and it's such an emotional week. It's by far the most emotional week you'll ever spend in your life. And you bond with those people, and you're always part of that team. And it's cool. I mean, I reminisce with guys all the time about Ryder Cup week, that I either played as a partner or we were on the team together. It's a memory that never fades, it never goes away. And it's a very special bond for us as golfers to have that opportunity to play in Ryder Cup together.
Well, Corey, we played golf since the 1970s together. And, man, the hardest part about being retired like I am, you're still playing, and I'm happy for you that you're still playing. And keep playing as long as you can, because I miss my friends. And, we travel together. We spent weeks together all the time. And anyway, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate your insight. I tell Chase all the time, you're the best player pound for pound in the world, period.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate our friendship. It does go back a long, long way. And we've had a lot of great competitions against each other. And it's made us greater friends because of it. So thanks for having me on your show.
Well, we appreciate it. Play good this week.
Thanks, Hal. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey. If you run into Nick Canales, tell him hello. He works with us here.
Be the right club today. Yes!